Welcome back to ET with GOTB. Chelsea clinch the FA Cup and Barcelona awaits Arsenal in the Champions League final. Let's get into it. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Right, in case, well, I guess if you're listening, if you're viewing, it's very obvious. If you're listening, that rustling in the background, that background noise you're going to hear, we are in fact out on a balcony on holidays recording this. So I can only apologise for the background noise. It is what it is. At least we're recording, right?
Yes, exactly. If I suddenly drift off and start sunbathing, just hit me.
Wake you up. This is your reminder, of course, to make sure you're subscribed and following us across our socials so you do not miss anything. Leave us a comment, drop us a review. We'd love to hear from you because we've got a lot coming up despite allegedly being on holiday. Surprise, surprise.
I was downstairs earlier today going, maybe I'll get a couple of days where I'm not doing anything. Aiming for tomorrow, I think.
I have a podcast to record tomorrow.
You do?
And I have another one to do on Thursday.
And then it's World Sevens to look
And it's World Sevens on Friday. And then it's Champions League. Anyway. Happy holidays.
One day. Yeah, happy
holidays. Wrong year. Okay, we're obviously going to be chatting today about the FA Cup final. We're probably not going to do our team of the week or anything like that. We are eventually going to do team of the season. But I might get you to pick out a player that you want to highlight. A player of the week, perhaps. Because I imagine there's one or two in that Chelsea team that you might pick out.
Yes.
I think I know who one might be. And then, of course, we will touch on Champions League coming up, World Sevens coming up this week. And the second half, I want to chat to you a little bit about my trip to Bergen to SK Brann. A nice little story there with FotMob. So that will be at the end of this episode as well. Right, Chelsea 3, Manchester United 0. 2 goals from Sandy Baltimore, 1 from Kat Macario. Kind of reported in some places as a kind of hammering, but maybe the scoreline, I think Chelsea deserved to win, but maybe the scoreline flatters a little bit.
I think Chelsea were comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't think Manchester United offered all that much. They started really, really well, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I said to you in the build-up to get the game, they would need to score early in that first kind of 20-minute period if they were probably going to have a chance in the game. And they started well. They had a couple of big chances. Janssen sent a shot wide. The reaction from Mark Skinner was hilarious. He stuck his leg in the air.
God love him, yeah.
And there were a couple more opportunities. They had a series of corners that looked quite dangerous. But I think once, Chelsea got into their groove and into their rhythm in that first half, they kind of just settled into the game, and they did what Chelsea do so well, and they took control of it. Erin Cuthbert was brilliant in the midfield. Sandy Baltimore was a star. She was player in the action.
Would you call Erin Cuthbert metronomic?
Metronomic.
She kind of just kept things ticking
she just gets
constant.
stuck in. She's constant. She is. I think sometimes she goes under the radar, and I'm guilty of that too. I don't always pay attention. Always give her maybe the kudos that she sometimes deserves. But I think she is so vital to the kind of intensity of the team, and how to push Chelsea forward as well. Chelsea were in the 3 at the back again, which was interesting. It's obviously a system that Sonia Bonpastor does want to kind of investigate further.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still unconvinced that maybe it's a long-term solution, but it did work on the day. I think also when you have 3 centre-backs that she has, when in Millie Bright, Natalie Bjorn and Naomi Goma, they do work quite well together. It allows Sandy Baltimore to go forward as well, to be pushed further forward. Which is her more natural attacking.
Well, she was really quite far forward because you had Niamh Charles and Lucy Bronze as the kind of wing backs, didn't you? So she got even more forward this time.
So she
what an
played
impact
against Liverpool in the front 9, and she moved up again today. And I think that's where she's kind of been in that left back role out of kind of necessity rather than actually really exploring her strengths with us, which is actually incredible, really, given that she's probably been one of their star performers of the year. Out of position, but it was because Niamh Charles got that injury in pre-season that kept her out until Christmas.
Yeah.
And I think, she really created a name for herself, but she definitely has the opportunity to provide a lot more going forward and being involved in goals and assists and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's got 2 goals and 1 assist, which is pretty incredible. Touched on Cuthbert. I thought Clinton in the first half especially was just having a kind of similar style to Cuthbert, that kind of dogged determination to get the ball back and disrupt play. And I thought she had a good first half especially. But yeah, those two kind of stood out. Erin Cuthbert especially stood out for me, especially in the lead up to that penalty. that Baltimore ultimately scored, but it was just that drive to get into the box and determination to get into the box and get something out of it, which was super
I think
impressive.
that kind of, I mean, Erin Cuthbert does epitomise Chelsea, right? It's grit, the hard work, the ability to have the flair as well alongside that, but it's that work rate and intensity and desire to get your body on the line and get over the line when it matters most, and she kind of epitomises that completely.
Probably something we've touched on before with United is that at times they lack that little bit of creativity and that quality finish at the end, and perhaps that could be partially down to not starting Ella Toone. We were just discussing, we thought Janssen had kind of been in for Toone with Clinton in the 8, but then others have said that Janssen was in the 8, so I don't know, maybe they were playing 2 8s and Janssen was a little bit higher, but it did feel like she was put in there, as Mark said, to kind of provide a bit more physicality in that midfield up against Chelsea.
Yeah, I think he said it was a tactical reason, and I guess it was to try and control that midfield, get more intensity in there. I was surprised actually, because while Dominique Janssen is a more defensive player, or more ability, I guess, has those defensive qualities, Ella Toone isn't exactly slight or anything. Like when you see her play for England, part of her form for England is sometimes, even when she's not at her creative best, she is always intense in the kind of the running and
the challenges,
the press and everything like that. And I do think it was quite a big and slightly odd statement from Mark Skinner to make, because Ella Toone, we all know what she's about, especially when she gets into Wembley. She is the heart of that United team. She has been most of the season.
One player of the season for them, didn't she?
One player of the season.
Again.
And so to drop her and leave her on the bench is just it's a bit strange. I don't really understand that thinking, really.
It was always going to be the thing that kind of stood out when you reflected on the game. Now, she did go on in the second half because Millie Turner had to go off, Janssen dropped back, and Ella Toone came into the team then, and I think had a couple of opportunities, but nothing clear cut, which was kind of United's day. I think they had 2 shots on target, maybe.
But I'd argue that she came in a bit too late. You know, they were already 1-0 down. That's a big mountain when you're playing Chelsea. They weren't creating all that much, and then you bring her on in an attempt to change the game, and the pressure is on her, but they're just, you know, they're behind in the game. It's harder. They're trying to force a few more chances and a few more creative actions, and they're just not quite getting them over the line. And I think, who knows what would happen if she started, but you definitely start with that kind of more attacking intensity if she's in that role.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to jump to your player of the week now, because I think it's kind of going to be part of that chat, and it's a player you want to chat about.
Yeah, Kat Macario, I think. Kudos to Sandy Baltimore, but
player of the match.
Yeah, player of the match. But I think for Kat Macario to score at Wembley kind of was just the perfect, not ending, but perfect comeback, I guess, for a player who's been through so much in recent years. You know, she was out for 22 months with an ACL injury before and during she signed for Chelsea. It took her a long while to come back, and that is even for an ACL injury, that's a bloody long time. And for a player to lose 22 months of their career is a long time. And there's always that worry that after those problems, that you're never going to quite reach the heights that you are capable of, or were before. I think she's had a few niggles ever since. She's not quite had a run of games starting and stuff like that, and maybe a bit of changing position as well, because she's played in the 10. She sometimes leads the line. She can go anywhere along the front 3 as well. So really nice moment for her. Brilliant header, by the way, just like the way that she rose in time to her jump perfectly to send it home. And I think she ran towards the corner, sent the ball into the crowd, and you could just see the utter relief and the utter celebration on her face. All of those months of
it kind of completed her comeback. Even though she's been back, it just felt like it was the turning point now, and she can just focus on
and it's
looking forward.
She's going to have those pictures and that memory.
Yeah, it was a dream, wasn't
it? She said that on her Instagram, and you could see it in the celebrations afterwards. She was in tears of joy, and I think that just showed what it meant. And hopefully this will be the real spark for her Chelsea career going forward, the one that really turns her from a good player for Chelsea, a really good player for Chelsea, but to that next level of player for Chelsea.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, someone else in the crowd was, of course, Serena Williams and Alexis Ohanian, and their little girl as well. A new investor in Chelsea, 20% stakeholder, between 18 and what is it?
8 to 10%.
8 to 10%. Sorry, 20 million. That's it.
Yeah.
I was getting all the numbers confused, and I got very confused about the 8 to 10, because I was like, well, either it's 8 or it's 10 or it's 9. Like, what is
It's
it?
because it's not.
You
quite,
explained it. I didn't understand it.
It's because I think
the estimation isn't bang on.
They haven't clearly, like they say it's around 20 million, but because the value of the club is a little bit uncertain, it's kind of an in between.
But it was very cool having one of the best athletes of all time in the crowd. But Alexis obviously being the investor, and it was only recently announced, and they were there at the final. They were very involved. They got to come down and get pictures with the trophy and all that kind of stuff. They're involved in some media chat as well, which was really cool. And it was kind of contrasted with post-match the queries around where Jim Ratcliffe was, which wasn't a huge surprise that he wasn't there. But it just kind of, and there were board members there, but it just kind of contrasted that. And I just found the comments afterwards a little bit funny, where understandably Mark is in between a rock and a hard place because he has to kind of defend.
He wants money from him eventually.
Yes, so yeah, but it's the kind of slight dig at, you know, it's easy to come to a final thing was kind of a bit shooting yourself in the foot a bit, because if it's so easy, then why wasn't Jim there?
But also it's kind of an unnecessary comment to make about, like, well, let's see if they turn up during this league season. You don't really need to say those words. The problem, like, I do think is asked about a little too much. And I think we know the story with Manchester United. It's no surprise that he's not there. I think the problem for United is that whenever Sir Jim does
open his mouth
and do an interview, he talks about the women's team in such a way that makes it very, very clear that he actually doesn't care that much about them or really prioritises them at all. So it means that when he isn't there, despite other owners being in the crowd, the focus will be on that, because he is the one that's taking the headlines and making the headlines. And but also, when you have it in stark contrast to, you know, Chelsea's owners being there, their new, you know, star-studded lineup in terms of, you know, Alexis obviously being, you know, the investor, but also when he brings along Serena Williams, it just adds that bit of glitz and glam to it a bit more. And I just think that, you kind of, I don't think the dig was necessarily necessary.
But I also think you just get a comms line prepared and you just use that line, and it would just save things instead of, because you know it's going to come up. It's going to happen. Anyway.
I just say, there were lots of moments of the weekend, but one of my moments of the weekend was seeing the clip of Fallon Joyce.
Oh my God.
In the dressing room afterwards with Serena Williams, and she was in tears, and it was just like, they're like all of us, you know, when they meet their heroes and their icons, you know, that emotion comes out, and that enjoyment and kind of awe it was really nice to see.
What I love though is that, like, for many young kids wanting to be goalkeepers, Fallon Joyce is probably a player they look up to and idolise, and, you know, it's their hero. And then to see her be like that with Serena Williams
it was like really brought it home that actually, you know, everyone has their role models and their icons. So.
It was really cool that she went into the dressing room there as well. Really cool. I love that. Well, I love that. I don't even need to ask you now what your moment of the weekend was. So Chelsea then banking the domestic treble, which is pretty incredible for Sonia Bonpaster's first season. I don't know how you top that. The quadruple? I don't know.
Yeah.
Even that,
I think Sonia Bonpaster said it quite clearly, didn't she? In post-match, we're missing. There is a gap there. We're missing the Champions League.
That hunger.
And she did mention that some players had said afterwards, you know, that
they'd spoken
about it already, about that lack of Champions League.
Guys, enjoy
I think
the celebration.
I can 100% guess
who
those players were.
Yeah, me too.
Lucy Bronze.
Yes. Although Lucy did definitely enjoy the celebrations, that's for sure. And it was quite nice to actually see them properly go for it celebration-wise, because it was quite mute after the League Cup. A bit bigger after winning the season, but then to actually go, oh, okay, we're done.
Yeah,
we can celebrate.
It's just about ticking them off, right? And
it did sadly mean that you had to wait 2.5 hours in the mix zone for a player to come through, and you got one player. So that was, you know, great. Would you like to use some of that player in this clip, or would we'll send people to our social medias where you got to chat to Aggie afterwards?
Aggie in there.
But then you're giving me a more difficult editing job.
It's fine.
Go to our socials, because I already have to do the editing. Sophie's going to go out and lie by the pool. And it gets more views on our socials. So head over to Instagram and TikTok. That is where you will find it. Okay, on this week, we've got the World Sevens. I don't really know how to even preview this, because I don't even know what to expect from it. So what do you think people can expect?
I don't know. The unknown. I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about it a little bit, is that none of us know what's about to happen, how it's going to pan out, what it's going to look like, how far along they are in terms of, like, establishing. You know, it was announced, 8 weeks ago or something. So it's been quite a short turnaround, it feels, to getting a tournament launched. And, you don't really know the interest in it, how many people are going to be there. It's just outside of Lisbon, so it's 30 minutes away from Lisbon. So while people will be coming to the Champions League final, that's really not until Friday.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting how players adapt to a 7-a-side game. What's that like in terms of everything, in terms of commentary, in terms of photography, in terms of writing about it? I mean, certainly in terms of playing it, it's going to be super interesting.
I expect it to be a bit Americanized, which is fine. I think it's going to be a bit about the experience of the whole thing. I think they'll lean more into that side of American sports, you know, with the kind of cabanas and stuff that you can hire. And I think that entertainment side of it will be big. And I think the style of football will be entertaining as well. So I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued, and I'm willing to go into it with an open mind. Like, all of the answers aren't going to come from this first 3 days of a tournament. They need to do several editions of it before we really understand or really can make a judgment on whether it works or whether it doesn't work. But it's a good starting point, and it's going to be fun, I think.
Okay. Champions League then follows on Saturday between Arsenal and Barcelona. How do you see this one playing out? I'm very nervous for the English team, but you're feeling more positive.
I have this weird feeling.
Do you want to describe what that is? It could be, you know, cramps. It could be, you know, could be. Butterflies. It could be
a bit of butterflies. But I just have this weird feeling that something strange might happen. A surprise might happen.
Okay.
And I know...
Could it be a surprise in like an 8-0 trashing, or do you mean like the other way?
I mean, it would be bad, but it's not a surprise. It would be a surprise because I don't think Arsenal will be beaten 8-0. But I don't know. It's a good feeling.
I hope I'm wrong.
I just think they've had 2 weeks to prepare. I think when the victory against Manchester United, yes, they conceded 3. But there were very specific circumstances around all of those 3 goals.
Do you think they've been luring Barcelona into a false sense of security in their final 3 games and just shipping goals, forgetting how to defend?
I do think they will be fully switched on. And I do think part of the problem with certainly the Villa and the Brighton game was that they weren't. They were in this aiming for the Champions League final phase rather than thinking about the rest of the season phase. I do really think that, yes, they have clear problems that they need to address. Their ability to defend on the transition is iffy at times. And it's going to be interesting to see whether René Slegers opts to, say, play Leo Volti alongside Kim Little and then push Cal Dente forward.
Opts to not play the Arsenal way.
Yeah, but add a bit more defensive stability into that midfield area, because I do think that's going to be absolutely crucial for them. So, going to be intriguing to see how they match up. I mean, I guess everything about my head says Barcelona to win it, but there's just little feeling.
Cool. That makes one of us. But I do hope Arsenal win it. We'll be there, so do follow our socials for any updates, photos, action, all of that kind of vibe. I think it's going to be really fun. Whatever happens, both sets of fans are unreal, so I think it's going to be great. Okay, my final piece is about my trip to Bergen with FotMob. FotMob is a match day app. You use it, Sophie, don't you?
I do, yeah. It's great for stats and stuff.
Stats, data, live action, all that kind of stuff. Updates. We got to visit their office, actually. It was really cool. So you could see all the data on the walls and all the downloads and all the usage and all that kind of stuff. The thing I was really impressed with was that their outage percentage, of not having any outages, was 99.99%, which was pretty incredible. Anyway, FotMob invited us out to a press tour to SK Brann in Bergen. We've been to Brann before. Last time we went, it rained the whole time, torrentially. And this time, the weather, a bit like this, absolutely glorious. And everyone was so excited in Norway because everyone's just oh, you've come at a great time. The weather's meant to last for a week. What a time to come. So apparently they get 10 days of sunshine or something ridiculous like that. So it was absolutely glorious weather. We spent the day then in SK Brann. We went to the stadium. We had a bit of a VIP tour. We got to chat with Mette Hammersland. Now, she's a marketing and media manager for SK Brann. She's an all-round Norwegian footballing legend. And I feel like every country or club you go to, there's always a person that kind of embodies what it means to really advocate and support and drive women's football. And I love meeting those kind of people. And she is one of them. And the funny thing was when we were introduced, she was like, yeah, I follow you on Instagram. Turns out we interviewed her during the 2022 Euros.
Before Norway and Northern Ireland.
Yes. down in Southampton. So like I was like, I recognise her. Why do I recognise her? And then I realised that that's how I recognise her. So women's football really is a small world. But she was a big part of the journey of Sandviken becoming SK Brann a couple of years ago. So Sandviken had been the women's team for a long time. So quite a difficult, emotional decision to kind of move to SK Brann. Like SK Brann is like, it's one of the biggest clubs in Norway. It's like, it's huge in terms of like people who support them, in terms of the vibe. They've got great kind of like ultras, if you like. The stadium vibes are amazing, and all that kind of thing. Like people travel hours and hours and hours to get to the games, A, because of just Norway's geography, but B, because it is like one of the big teams to support in Brann, if not the biggest. So it was quite smart to integrate the women's team. Integrate they did. They really kind of just fully bought in from the get-go, which I think was very, very helpful, and decided they were going to be playing in the main stadium, in Brann Stadium, which was massive. Like one of the guys talking to us was kind of saying, you know, we could have maybe put them in a smaller stadium. And I was like, yeah, but build it and they will come and you get more people. They have one of the highest...
It's a cool stadium.
It is. They have the highest average attendance in the league as well, understandably. So that was really, really cool. But Meta, she... started playing at 14 or 15 in a team in 1975, immediately recognised the disparity in like women's football compared to men's. She says she's been involved in football politics basically since. In 1982, she was standing alone in a district meeting pushing for fairer access for women and girls teams. By the age of 25, she was on the district board, even got up to vice president at NFF, like the Norwegian Football Federation. Like she's been involved everywhere. She was going around to clubs telling them they needed to start women's football teams. So it's really cool that she's come full circle and she's still working in the game and still such a valued and vital member of the club. She said she'd made it basically her life's mission, which is really cool. So it was really nice to chat to her, and just everyone around spoke about her and how important she was, which was quite lovely. We also got to speak to Martin Ho about his time at the club, which was great. Like he gave us an hour, about 3 hours before kickoff, chatting to us. A couple of us. I'm like, that would just
happen in England.
Never happen. But it was really great, and he spoke about his time there and what it's been like. Here's a little bit of what he said.
So when the opportunity come up, then we looked at it. So and it fitted because the teams had to rebuild. They've had some wonderful players here before I got here, under Alexander Strauss and Ole Harder. And a lot of those players have moved on and come into England, like Lisbon and Guro Bergsvand. So many names that had been here and had wonderful careers here and have moved on. So it was rebuilding the team, changing the identity, the playing style, and aligning that with the club. And we've done that in the space of time the last probably 22, 23 months. Making sure that we could start to put building blocks in place that could enable a team to be successful. And I think in the early stages, it went really well. We were winning games. We hadn't conceded a goal in 9 games in the league when I come in, and you usually get that kind of bounce when someone comes in because it's a different way of playing. I took a lot of pressure away from them. Then we had a wonderful opportunity in the Champions League in August 23 in the mid-group stage. We done wonderfully well in that, and then we had 2 qualifiers in the September time, and then qualified for the group stage, and then went through the group stage through October, November, December, which was a new experience for the club at that point, and then qualified for the quarter-final against Barcelona. So that was a wonderful experience, but probably over that time period, we didn't have a pre-season going into the new season, so we just went straight through from when I come in July 23. We had 3 weeks together, and then we were in first league game, Champions League qualifier. So we ended up going through from July 23 all the way through to the end of next season without a break. So it was real tough, and I was trying to give the players as much time as we could, and fair to the players and the staff, there would be no excuse from us at all. We give everything in that moment, and then this is the first pre-season we've just had in January for 6 or 7 weeks since I've been here. So yeah, I think it's been a whirlwind in the first 12, 13 months, and I probably didn't get a chance to pinch myself probably in those moments. And when you're in the Champions League, you're so tunneled vision on the objective ahead and the game and the players and what you need to do that you maybe lose sight a little bit of actually being in the Champions League group stage and listening to the anthem and walking out when the players go out for a game. And you don't really get to really feel that until you step back, where you kind of go, yeah, we were in the group stage of the Champions League. And probably a little bit where I felt it a tiny bit was when we played Lyon in December, on the 22nd of December, when we drew 2-2. That moment was a little bit surreal. We were kind of, it's probably a really good typical Bergen moment of cold, snowing, and then there's energy and all the rest flowed with it, and then Signa scores the goal, and yeah, it's a wonderful piece 3 days before Christmas. So yeah, it's been a very, very quick 22, 23 months, I'd say. And it's different adapting back to a kind of summer into winter league compared to having your break in the summer. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's really something I needed to know I wanted to do it. Maybe will I do it in the future? Hopefully, yeah. I think you never know until you maybe take another step into management where you have higher and greater expectation on your shoulders, and maybe you're managing top world-class players that demand more from you and demand more from you as a manager. So, well, no, I think this has given me a wonderful opportunity at this club, and the size of the club is big. As much as maybe not known as much within the wider part of Europe, I think when you come into the club, you see how big it is, and I think what the players get offered here is probably more than some other clubs maybe get in Europe. Maybe the weather's just a little bit colder.
So cool to hear from him. I know he's dead keen to win something there. There's, as far as I'm aware, time of recording, still unbeaten, I think. They were top of the league when we were there, and we obviously got to see them play. They beat Stovek in the end, and they were comfortable. They played some very nice football. The difficulty, I think, with the crowd that particular day was that Norwegian Day was on the 17th, and on the 16th the men's team were playing, so they were having back-to-back games, which is quite a difficult, from an organisational marketing perspective, quite tricky. But yes, they were going to have a game the next day, and you could see people going around in traditional Norwegian dress. It was very, very cool. But at the end, I got to chat to Martina Ostenstad about Ostenstad, I think it is. She was the first player to gain 100 caps for Brann, because obviously they've only moved over a couple of years. So she's the first ever women's player to gain 100 caps, which was really cool. She's captain as well. And her family came on the pitch afterwards. She got a 100 shirt and everything, which was really sweet. But I had a quick chat with her after the game. Here's what she said.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, no big deal. Congratulations today. Another win, still top of the league, still unbeaten. The sun is out. How special was that?
No, really special. And I think for us it was really important to lift our performance from the last game we had, and to come here on the 15th of May, that's like a big football day for us. So to come here and create a lot of chances and score goals, it was fun. And nothing is better to play football in Bergen when the sun is out. So.
And a special day for you as well. 100 caps, first player to do that at a special club. That must mean a lot.
Yeah, it is. I said it before, but it's a huge moment for me and something I'm very proud of. And my family was in the stands today and was able to take a photo with them after the game. So it means a lot. And I also feel like I've been through a lot of through the years I've been here. A lot of things have changed for us. I came here 5 years ago and thought I was going to be a professional football player, but I don't think I was at that time. And I can say proudly today that I've played 100 games and that I now am a professional football player. So that's something I'm really proud of.
And obviously looking at winning the league this year, but maybe this is a day you'll look back on in years to come, right?
Yeah, and I also got a little bit emotional. I don't think maybe you noticed, but we have like this almost like a national song we sing before every game, and I almost started crying, so I had to pull myself together for a moment there before the game. But very special.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very sweet. I was very impressed at my excellent Norwegian at the beginning, which no big deal. That's now 2 words I can speak in Norwegian, which is great. But yeah, a brilliant trip.
You forgot to mention your encounter with the goats.
Oh, I met a goat, literal goats, at the top. If you ever go to Bergen, which I'd highly recommend, you go up the funicular to the top of the mountain, and when we were there was like nothing open up there, right? It was grey, raining, drizzly, awful. The goats were like, no thanks. So we didn't even know they existed. But when we went up, just fucking load of goats, just hanging out, chilling, free reign. What do you call them? Like just loose in nature, just chilling, relaxing. And people were literally wandering up and petting them on the head. And
I mean, you gained a...
I was mildly stalked by a goat. One of the guys I was with pointed out that there was one staring at me, and I turned around. It was like just behind a bench watching me, and then trotted over and just stopped. And I was like, am I supposed to, like, hello? And then I thought maybe I was in its way, so I moved, and it just followed me and stopped again for a pat. It's called Spot, so hey, Spot.
Rachel, I was in the hairdresser. And I was like, she knows I'm in the hairdresser. I got this video call off Rach. So I didn't answer. And she was like, I just need 10 seconds of your time. So she called again. I answered as I was getting my hair cut. Hairdresser in the background. And there was a goat on the screen. Just like...
It was the most Norwegian picture you might ever see. It was a goat lying down, chilling, overlooking, like from the mountain, this incredible view of the lakes and the town below. It was like just the most Norwegian thing I'd ever seen. And I just don't think a picture or me describing it would have sold it. So you got to see it.
Was.
Anyway, it was a really, really cool trip. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully might do some work with FotMob in the future, maybe. So, you know, if you're following us, you won't miss any of that. So there's your second reminder, but do keep an eye out because, yeah, it was really good fun. Right, we will be at the Sevens on Friday. We'll be at the Champions League final on Saturday. We'll hopefully do a live at some point.
Sunday, I think.
This Sunday, we think.
But
Maybe
from the airport on the way home.
That's gone so well in the past when we've recorded from an airport.
Because we're going to go Pastel de Notas hunting in the morning.
You make it sound like we're hunting for like truffles or something. We're just going to go to a shop and buy some.
It's like the
shop
version of
the
truffles.
shop, right? Well, they're a lot easier to find.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, we will do a live on Sunday at some point. We'll give you a little bit of warning. But otherwise, we'll be back next week with another episode. We've also got an extra bonus pod that was meant to come out last week that is coming out this week. So again, subscribe and you won't miss it. But we'll chat to you again very soon.